Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headley and Dr. Gordon Fimwright, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and with me is Dr. Gordy. Welcome, Gordy.
Hi, Mike. Welcome, viewers. We have a subject today called inflammation. And I know a lot of people, when they think of inflammation, they're just thinking of those local inflamed joints or maybe a muscle strain or even skin irritation. Sure, you can get pain with that, localized pain, swelling, bruising, or redness. But the inflammation I think we're really interested in is the systemic, some of the real problems that inflammation can cause. When you talk about inflammation, Dr. Mike, what is the first thing you think of?
I think inflammation, this could possibly be one of the most important topics that we'll discuss on the health angle. And because it affects everybody every day. And so we have acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. So what I think about is just that, am I or the person I'm working with experiencing acute or chronic inflammation? And chronic inflammation is devastating. And inflammation is the root cause of nearly every disease and a disorder that we know today. And if someone has any condition they've been labeled with itis, that's inflammation. Sinusitis and bursitis and arthritis and colitis and all those things. And we'll dive deep into it and we will give you some really, really, really great solutions. So what do I think of? I just think of chronicity is because when our body's not recovering from the acute inflammation, when we've talked in the past about exercise and diet and all these things, when we don't recover, then it turns into chronic, and that's where it's devastating.
When I think of inflammation, it always pops in my head, the anti-inflammatory diet. But the reality is inflammation, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, and is it the cause or the effect? It's really complex. There's a lot of moving parts when you talk about inflammation. Yeah. I like the Latin meaning. I never knew this. I had to look it up. The Latin meaning of inflammation, of course, this has been around, age-old, ancestral. I mean, it's been around forever. Inflammation has. And what it means, the Latin word, it means to ignite or burn as a preemptive ignite defense against a potential threat. And then, of course, the inflammation kicks in. It's your immune system responding to an infection, an injury, and even a disease. So when something foreign enters your body, a bacteria or a virus, or some toxic chemical, what happens is your immune system reacts. It's a natural physiological effect. And your immune system sends out cells to basically trap that infection. And so your body can start the healing process. You know, we went from COVID 2 years ago, 3 years, and then all of a sudden now we're just ending the cold and flu season. And when I think of these, I think of, well, how does the body react to? And the first thing that happens is your body increases its temperature. And of course, most people's thought is, hey, let's get something to lower the temperature of our body. Unless it's an emergency that's counter-reactive for such virus, such a bacteria infection, we need to have an increased temperature, body temperature, so it dissolves the coating of the bacteria or virus. So the immune system, white blood cell, macrophage, all these chemical mediators of inflammation get into the cell and kill it before it does more damage to your body. It's just a small example. When we talk about inflammation, we're talking about many different systems. I actually looked this up. I looked on Wikipedia, and it had different systems. Like if, for example, it had the digestive system, then it had a list of all these potential harmful diseases and conditions due to inflammation. And then you'd look at, for example, the neuromusculoskeletal system, another list, and the list goes on and on. So there is just a ton of information as far as the root cause of inflammation accelerating these problems.
Absolutely. And so a little theme to think about is, I like the saying, base hits win ball games. And I also like fundamentals win games as well, because we're both into sports and have played college sports, etc. And base hits win ball games. So if I go through a list of causes right now, and I don't want people to get so nervous and go, oh, I've got 4 or 5 of those issues and imbalance. We just take slow, steady action, keep hitting base hits and little action steps every day. Little by little, little becomes a lot. And so here are some major causes of chronic inflammation. And so another thing I think about too, when you said what's the first thing I think of when I think of inflammation, is if someone tells me they have cancer, heart disease, diabetes, or an Alzheimer's type thing, those are the big 4 things that are going to knock most people off the planet. That's chronic inflammation associated with that, and then all the other musculoskeletal issues. And so here are some major causes that we have to have our radar up, and some are really quick fixes to avoid, and some of them we have to dive deeper. But viruses and bacteria that you mentioned earlier, heavy metals are big, from amalgams in our food with tuna and fish, and metals in our air, lead paint, etc. Different toxins in our food, MSG, and all the other toxins in our foods, different chemicals that we smell on the job or in fragrances and things like that. Many environmental factors, from our clothing to makeup and nail polish and shampoos and everyday items. And then the high fruit sugars in the foods and the high fructose corn syrups, trans fats, and then the refined seed oils. Refined seed oils, the canola oils of the world, we shouldn't eat anything that is fried in canola oil. It just makes it poison and toxic for our body and creates inflammation when we try to break some of those things down. Bad fats, wheat and gluten. And then when we have gut imbalances, we get stress out of control. We get other lifestyle factors from poor sleep, just a myriad of causes of chronic inflammation.
No doubt, Mike. That's a real thorough list. And of course, you can add electromagnetic waves to the list. And by the way, if you haven't seen our past episode on electromagnetic waves, stress, sleep, go back and check out some of our other programs. Phenomenal information.
Yes.
Yeah, when somebody has exposure to everything that you had just said, Mike, I mean, what happens? Well, I mean, some of the symptoms that people might have, some of the lesser symptoms might be some joint pain here and there, stiffness, fever, fatigue, trouble sleeping, pain in the deep parts of the stomach or chest. You have skin irritation or a rash, even a sore mouth. And then some of the more deeper problems might be depression, anxiety, mood disorders. And well, how do you know that that's from having inflammation of the body? We don't know for sure, but we do know that that's one of the mechanisms. Bottom line is, the healthier you are, the more you can mitigate the damages of inflammation. Of course, too much weight gain or weight loss, that's a sign that there could be inflammatory responses in your body. GI problems, diarrhea, constipation, acid reflux. And then you look at the systems, the neuromuscular system, digestive, endocrine that we just talked about. And you would hit it right on the nail, Mike, with the different diseases: cardiovascular disease, heart disease, get high blood pressure, and Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes. That's a real big one. And then other infectious diseases. So the bottom line is being proactive with this. One of the things, and we'll have a subject on this topic alone, but it's the autoimmune. It's when your body builds a defense, an immune response against your own body, and that's called an autoimmune. That's not supposed to happen, but when you put these foreign substances in your body can become very confused, and it ends up many times attacking itself, thinking it's foreign. And what are some autoimmune disorders? Diabetes, that's probably one of the biggest ones. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease, thyroid conditions. There's multiple sclerosis. Then you get into the neurodegenerative type of diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. There's a lot of autoimmune. That's just a partial list, but there's a lot of autoimmune disorders. Why? I don't even think the medical profession has a real handle as far as what's causing it and what's the solution. The bottom line is you got to take, I think you hit it right on the mark when you said this might be one of our most important subjects.
Absolutely. And thank you for summarizing all of those conditions and all those things. Yeah, most of these chronic issues are preventable, treatable, and curable. And there's a lot of natural remedies that can help you with that, but most Americans don't have a lot of information and don't believe a lot of these things can be treated with natural remedies because we don't see it on TV and in the news feeds and social media. And so big pharma, big media, and things like that, they censor a lot of this information that we talk about. But you can go on search engines and you can look in books and magazines and really get deeper information and more details on this. And I would like to share, Dr. Gordy, this article from Natural News from March of last year, 2023. Top 12 most inflammatory foods, medicines, and ingredients you should avoid at all costs, because over 50% of all deaths worldwide are attributed to chronic inflammatory diseases. So here's the list. I already went through some of these, but number one, refined sugar, and then the high fructose corn syrup. So if you're drinking a pop or a soda that has high fructose, our body just doesn't break that down. So, or you're putting aspartame and NutraSweet in the diet drinks in your system, the body is like a poison. So this immune system has to make antibodies to capture the poison and the toxin. Well, I only want my immune system to capture viruses and bacteria so I want my immune system on vacation until I have some viruses and bacteria that I can't accommodate. And I don't just want it fighting chemicals all day. So number two is refined seed and vegetable oils. And I said earlier, canola oil. 3 is gluten. 4 is GMO corn or soy. That's such a filler in so many things today. Fluoridated tap water. There's a lot of research now on fluoride, and people, that's kind of a controversial topic. Oh, my toothpaste has fluoride, my water has fluoride. Fluoride's good. Well, that's what we've been told for so many years. Maybe we'll get into the research on that at another podcast.
Mike, I'm going to jump in real quick. When you were talking about the water fluoride, yes, I hear you. 100% agree with you. But I did this one, I did a video on my own a year ago, and it was just on this subject of water. And there are tons of chemicals and runoffs from our water supply. So there's a whole pluffer of chemicals and bad stuff that comes from water. And we'll have a show on water one of these episodes and highlight that. But continue your list.
All aspects of water and how to purify your water and what should you put in water and how much water do you need, and just, besides air, geez, we can't live without air and pure water. So yeah, great. We'll talk about that, and then we'll be talking about products and things in the future too, about air and water filters and things like that we endorse. MSG. Wow, you can search on your computer or your phone and look at the 20 and 30 different names they tried to hide MSG and different names they use for MSG. So that's a tricky way that they sneak it into our foods. Aspartame or other NutraSweet and other sugar alcohols and different things that they're putting in sugar-free products. Flu shots, multi-dose, contain high doses of mercury. I said fish has mercury and tuna and things like that. The COVID mRNA jabs, we can talk about some research on that at future dates too if we have some interest. Excess alcohol, partially hydrogenated oils, trans fats, and then just homogenized milk fats, all the chemicals in non-dairy milk fats. So that's just a 12 item list that you really have to have your radar up to really avoid, to cut down on chronic inflammation.
Yeah, and then you can add things like red meat as well. And then you were talking about cooking like in vegetable oil or a safflower oil, some oil that isn't a high quality oil like extra virgin olive oil or a coconut oil. So if you cook with safflower, a vegetable, or a corn oil, and you're making anything with white bread or muffins or bakery goods, not good. Trans fats, these are refined carbohydrates, not good at all. And then you can add to it like mayonnaise. People put this on their sandwich all the time. That's another source, as well as salad dressing. So if you want healthy solutions to the mayonnaise, Greek yogurt, avocado, hummus, and then many of the other salad dressings, you can do a search engine, and there are a ton of ways to make really healthy alternatives. I mean, we can get in some healthy steps here. And Mike, I think you hit it right on the dot. Some of the oil, like the fish oils or the fish products, I mean, they do have mercury. So you have to be really honed into what you're purchasing and what you're eating. But I think there's got to be this balance between a healthy omega-3, which are omega-3 fatty acids, versus that which is an omega-6, which isn't the healthiest. Some of them are healthy, but there's got to be a balance, probably more in the omega. There's got to be a
2 to 1, omega-6 to 3, but I mean 1 to 1, is actually healthy too. But we're like 30 omega-6 to 1 omega-3. The average person walking, it needs to be 2 to 1, 1 to 1, or something like that.
So needless to say, we don't have to try to get omega-6s. We just get them. So we got to focus in on our omega-3 fatty acids. And that's we get that from fish, walnuts, algae, chia seeds, flax seeds, sachi, inchi oil. You talked a little bit about salmon, sardines, but this is one that people might not think about. Leafy greens such as spinach and kale. And then there's the extra virgin olive oil that I just discussed. Whole grains, some nuts. But I really think it's important for people to supplement omega-3, the fish oil or the krill oil, as well as long as it's coming from a good source. And then you got the other vitamins that's going to help, anti-inflammatories such as vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. And then there's incredible spices. They make supplements out of this, anti-inflammatory spices, things like turmeric. Turmeric is getting a lot of attention. It's not only anti-inflammatory, but it's antioxidant. And there's some ongoing studies about its effect to mitigate getting cancer. And then you got ginger. And then one of the more common antibacteria, antivirus natural component is garlic. They call it the natural antibiotic. So garlic is another one. And then you can look at lifestyle. We need to be healthy. We need to just exercise and not too much. And in fact, I had a friend that really got into a healthy lifestyle, and you would consider him very healthy if you saw him. The thing is that he went too far, too fast, too much. In other words, his running program was out of this world, and he wasn't exactly a young guy anymore. And he ended up developing cancer. And I can't help but to think that it was because of the inflammatory every day grinding his body and just grinding it down where his body just couldn't react because of those inflammatory. Now, we don't know for sure. We just don't know. So, the importance of just moderate exercise. The other things you can do as far as your lifestyle is reduce stress, get more sleep, smoking. Mike, here in Chicago, just about every corner has a coffee shop, but they also have these smoking shops every corner.
Wow.
And I mean, they're everywhere. And then, of course, every time I walk from here to work, which is maybe 2 miles, a quick 2 miles, I smell marijuana and smoke. It's everywhere. So these shops are everywhere. So the bottom line is that causes inflammation. And then, of course, reducing alcoholic consumptions as well. And then keeping your body mass index, keeping it at a good range so you're not obese or too thin for that matter as well.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And to summarize some of that too, I would say our lifestyle with our exercising, eating, and sleeping. I've slept only a couple hours a few nights, and you get bags under your eyes and you just feel dry and puffy and parched, and joints are stiffer and didn't recover if you exercised the night before. So a healthy lifestyle is really, really, really critical. and then just really avoiding most of those things or all of those things on that top 12 list I mentioned, because if you're polluting your system, what's going to be affected first? Whatever's weak in your body, your heart, your knee, your back, your stomach, whatever is weak in our system, the inflammation is like has a laser beam that goes right to it and can make that worse. I have a list of some really good tests, because how do you know if you're really inflamed besides a doctor of chiropractic or a medical doctor say, oh, you have arthritis, or you have gastritis, you have IBS, or you have cancer, you have high blood pressure. I mean, that's an obvious indicator that you have chronic inflammation. But if you think you're healthy and well, what else can you do? My number one test that I recommend is something called CRP, C-reactive protein. It measures a protein produced in your liver that indicates inflammation levels in your body. And the normal range is 0 to 1 milligrams per liter. And the highest, Dr. Gordon, I saw a lady in my office that came in. She was, if I had to guess, pushing 300 pounds for 5 foot something. And she just wasn't well, and big and swollen and red and puffy and joints and arthritis. And she said to her she had x-rays, and she brought them in and had bone spurs and just really degenerating fast for someone in their early 60s. And she had a 94 CRP. And she goes, well, what do you think that's bad? I said, it's normal. Yeah, I mean, that's like having 800 cholesterol or having blood pressure 400 over 200. That's incredibly high inflammation, CRP. But there are some other tests if you want to talk to your medical doctor or just order some of these tests yourself. The A1C is a good indicator if it's not in range of high inflammation. Fasting insulin, serum ferritin, red blood cell width, homocysteine are just some simple tests. If they're out of range, it might mean other things as well, but it for sure means you have chronic inflammation. It's fun to measure that and prove to yourself that your lifestyle and your diet and your living a really clean, low inflammatory life by getting some tests done once in a while.
That's great, Mike. Good information. I look forward to hearing some of your solutions, and then I'll share some of the ingredients and some of the things that I put in a smoothie or that you can put in a smoothie that can help to reduce inflammation. Then I have a really good anti-inflammatory salad that I can share as well. So just a couple of proactive steps for people that they can do at home.
Nice. I'm curious to hear that. So 5 ways to reduce inflammation quickly. Good hydration, filtered water, whether it's reverse osmosis, there's a lot of good water filters out there. Really good hydration. If you're sweating in the gym every day, you need half your body weight in ounces of water, probably. And arguably we can find out exactly how much water you need. You need straw-colored urine. You need to have good skin turgor, but good hydration. Flush out your kidneys. Flush out inflammation. Regular movement, not too much. How do you know you're exercising too much? Is if you're really sore for the next 2 or 3 days after a workout. So walking and stretching and yoga. Running is fine if you don't do too much, like your example of your friend. I like rebounding, Dr. Gordy, and like chi machines because it kind of moves lymph and it helps our lymph that contains our blood cells and inflammatory cells as well. So good hydration, regular movement. Number 3 is anti-inflammatory nutrition. So you'll help out with some specifics on that. And then reducing stress and improving your sleep. 6 to 9 hours, depending on the individual. I like the number 8. If you get 8 hours, in general, if it's quality, you'll restore yourself and help battle the inflammation over the evening. So, and then the nutrition that helps fight inflammation that I have written down, omega-3s, like you said, turmeric, curcumin, vitamin D3, glutathione boosting agents, and then ginger and boswellia were 2 of my favorites as well. So those are 5 ways to reduce inflammation quickly. Good hydration, regular movement, Anti-inflammatory nutrition, reduce stress and improve sleep. Use key nutrition in your everyday life, and smile and laugh and just hit base hits. Do one or two of these things and just be consistent with it, and you'll see some pretty good results fast.
That's great, Mike. Consistency is more important than intensity. That's the motto I live by. So here's some good ingredients. You can make a drink out of this, or what I like to do is add it to smoothie. So here's some really good, powerful antioxidants. Ginger or parsley. Put that in a green juice mix or mix it with your smoothie. Lemon and turmeric, some tonic in that form. This is one that's outside the box that most people might not even think of. Baking soda and water. So that's a big one. One of the things that I do is I'll put baking soda on my toothpaste, and that's how I brush my teeth in the morning. Usually just do it in the morning or at night, not both. And it whitens your teeth, but there's so much bacteria in the mouth. It's one of the biggest areas where bacteria is found, the mouth. That's why they check horses to see if they're healthy or not, to see if they have good teeth and a good oral cavity. So baking soda and water, not too much, but just enough. Dr. Mike, go ahead. It looked like you wanted to say something.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, you're good.
1/2 to 1 teaspoon is recommended for most. 1/2 to 1 teaspoon, not tablespoon, a small little teaspoon, 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of baking soda in water. It mixes up good. And then I do oil pulling too. I forgot to mention with coconut oil that help inflammation in the gums and teeth. So you can put baking soda in there, or essential oils and other things to help with inflammation.
Yeah, that's a good one too, Mike. The next thing is bone broth, matcha tea. And then they have like already mixed green mixes. So you're going to get your kale and some of the other greens that you'd need in a mix, a green mix. And of course, berries, you mix those in with your smoothie as well. Blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, etc. So one of the best anti-inflammatory green smoothies you can make is I like to go to the store and get them frozen and organic. So I look for the spinach, kale, cucumber, ginger, and pineapple, which is also a very big anti-inflammatory ingredient. You mix it in with coconut water and you blend it together. And then you can add a little topping such as chia seeds or sprinkle a little turmeric. And that's about as healthy as you can get as far as an anti-inflammatory smoothie goes. And then a salad, quinoa salad with a roasted vegetable. So toss cooked quinoa with roasted bell peppers, zucchini, cherry tomatoes, and add a little bit of extra olive oil as well as lemon juice. And then you can add some herbs such as parsley or basil, and that would be a perfect salad for anti-inflammatory. So if you're going to work out a lot or be out in the sun a lot, or you're doing something where you're not getting enough sleep and you know your body is getting a lot of inflammation, or you're starting to see obscure inflammation that you don't even know where it's coming from, these are just a couple of ideas of things that you can do. So back to you, Mike.
I have a little bit more higher tech type things. If people have a robust budget and want to hit this head on and say, hey, I got 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, I really want to dive into my health and biohacking and inflammation. I mean, the cold water immersion, that's what we do for a sprained ankle, for an acute sprained ankle and an acute injury, but also for chronic issues. Cold showers and cold tubs are really, really, really good for inflammation. Infrared and far infrared saunas are really anti-inflammatory and healthy. The pulsed electromagnetic frequency tables and beds are really, really geared to remove inflammation. Grounding, we've talked about EMF in our past episodes, but grounding is an anti-inflammatory strategy using lasers and red lights, vibration plates. I talked about a rebounder, chi machine, chiropractic care. When our spine and nervous system is functioning optimally, we can have our drainage organs and our detox organs optimally working, getting massage. There's lymphatic massage and regular massage. A lot of other ancillary things to really hit this from a lot of different angles to help inflammation.
Great information, Mike. I think I'm going to close my section. I'm sure you got a lot more, but the bottom line is the acute inflammatory, like you said, It's bound to happen. We're going to have skin irritations and joint injury and other just acute, and you're going to get an inflammatory response. But the one that we're really concerned about is the chronic inflammation. This is systemic, and it can lead to just about anything. And I always think, what's the cause and what's the effect? I guess it really doesn't matter as long as you're doing some of these healthy steps that Dr. Mike had recommended. So
Yeah.
the bottom line is keeping a proactive, healthy lifestyle and being aware of how your body is responding to the things that you're subjecting it to.
Absolutely.
Back to you, Mike.
Absolutely. Great information, Gordy. And what is it? March 20th today. And this is one of the earliest times, I've lived here 15 plus years, earliest times that our Lake Bemidji is mostly absent of ice. So if it's nice Saturday and if it's like 10 above and really windy, I'm not going to go jump in the lake. But if it is nice, I'm going to go and hang out in the water for 5 minutes.
Tell us about your experience. I know you've done that before, Dr. Mike. Did a little pull or plunge, so to speak.
Yeah.
What's the coldest and what was your body response?
Well, I did November 10th of last year, 2023. It's cold because it gets icy on the lakes in November in northern Minnesota. So you go through cold burning, tingling, aching, and then you kind of go numb after about 3 minutes. And so if you can hang in there for 3 minutes, then you go, wow, this isn't so hard. And I contend it's fairly easy to jump in a lake in the middle of winter and you cut out a hole. It's hard to stay in there because it's painful. But I only do it because of the effect. Because I broke my right hip 22 years ago, and I just get such a good effect on my joints all day. It's not just like a 15-minute relief, whatever. I feel just amazing all day.
And if we have viewers out there thinking about jumping in a cold lake, there is a fine line between making this therapeutic and your body going into a hyperthermic condition where that becomes very dangerous. So I would definitely have somebody with you as you're exploring this type of venue.
Well, yeah, an average cold shower is 47 to 51 degrees. You try taking a all the way cold shower at 48 degrees for 3 to 5 minutes. That's not an easy task either. And let alone getting into 38-degree water in a lake for 5 minutes. So yeah, just sometimes even 30 seconds. And that's a good mental and physical way to reduce inflammation. One last thing too before I sign off is our gut. We didn't talk a lot about the gut, and we create neurotransmitters for our brain. Our immune system is largely in our gut, and we need to really, really protect our gut. And we didn't mention a lot about probiotics and the prebiotics for the gut, but we really, if you're having systemic chronic inflammation and joint issues and high blood pressure and diabetes and all those things, really, really, really evaluate your gut health and for the inflammation of the gut. And we'll probably dive into IBS and some gut issues in the future, but gut health is a huge hit when you have chronic inflammation.
And then you add like leaky gut syndrome. Yeah, we'll cover that in detail. I think that will be another big show that we'll end up doing, Dr. Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we talked a lot and we rifled through lists of things to avoid and things to add to your food and smoothies. And so think about what was your number one takeaway that you go, wow, when you're talking with your colleague tomorrow at lunch, you go, hey, I listened to these 2 chiropractors that talked about inflammation. Let's evaluate our lunch to see if it's pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. And maybe what can we do to support each other with some of these ideas and avoid some of the things they said were really, really pro-inflammatory. And then what is your number one takeaway that you can take from what we said, or it triggered a book you read, or Dr. Gordy's book that he wrote? And what book did you read, or what docuseries that you maybe looked at and listened to that's like, oh, shoot, I used to take omega-3s and add curcumin and turmeric to some of my foods, and I haven't done that lately. So maybe that's your action step. Gordy, tell us what we're going to talk about next week.
Next week, I think we'll be experts in this subject, Dr. Mike. Both of us are chiropractors, so we're going to dive into chiropractic and give you all the details. There'll be questions. Some people love chiropractic, and there's others that might not, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I think we'll be able to fill the gaps. We'll have some insight information on that for next week's episode. Anything to add to that, Dr. Mike?
No, I'm excited to talk about it because we've both been chiropractor for quite some time now. We went to different schools and have working in different size cities and see different type populations. So it'll be very interesting to share our experiences throughout our years.
I think we have almost 60 years of experience between the two of us, almost.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that'll be great to share. So thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our station. We always appreciate the comments as well. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode. Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.